Yep. I said it before and I'll say it again.
That scene, that last scene.
What does it mean?
I'm the dude, you know?
Get the fuck out of here. No, I cannot.
It's over. Go home. That final scene
Starts now.
Hello. We are back. Welcome to That Final Scene, the podcast where we analyze and dissect final scenes in movie history. How's everyone? Hi, Ben. Hi, Simon.
Yo, hello, yeah, all good. Is that Bryan Cranston at the end of that intro?
What's he say?
That final scene. Is that
I
Bryan
could
Cranston?
see that. I could
Is that
see
Cranston?
that.
Might be.
It has his like lovely smooth tone. I'd be interested to know. I saw Bryan Cranston in London, in a restaurant in London once.
What?
Yeah, in a Mexican restaurant in Euston. And me and Ellie were sat across from him in a restaurant, like maybe 20 feet away. And I was looking at him, I was like, it can't be Bryan. You know, and you're like, it can't, you're like, what the hell would Bryan Cranston be doing in this random Mexican restaurant in Euston? Like, there is no reason for him to be here.
It wasn't even
at
fancy.
All. No, it was like a normal place. Like, it's quite a nice place, like a traditional place. And it was really good food. But I was like, what? The Bryan Cranston wouldn't be here. What am I talking about? I started Googling it, like, is Bryan Cranston in London? Like, is he doing a play here? Is he filming something here? Couldn't find anything. And I was like, no, it can't be him. I was like, I'll have a look when we walk out and see, you know, just in case. And before we went to leave, this group of people got up and left and they went over and they like asked for a picture. And I was like, fucking hell, it is Bryan Cranston. And then I was like, well, I can't say anything because he's been having this lovely meal for the whole time that we've been there. It's like 40 minutes, maybe an hour, and no one's gone up to him. And then this group of people go up. I can't then go up and be like, Bryan, I loved you as Hal and Malcolm. Fuck that Breaking Bad shit. You're Hal to me, you know?
I wouldn't have it in me to walk up to someone while they're eating and just ask for anything.
Okay, so here's a question. And I feel like I've had this conversation with people before, but I don't think we've had it on this podcast. Would you go up to a celebrity and ask, and who would are there circumstances that you wouldn't? Because like I wouldn't do it in a restaurant or if someone was with their kids because I think that's a bit weird. But if I saw a celebrity in the street and they weren't like rushing somewhere, I might say something. And then who would be your main one if you were like, of all the people, I would stop them on the street?
I think the ones that I have pictures or autographs from, I don't want to use the word stalks because it sounds weird, but I
Nice.
have gone.
You followed them down the street. Yeah,
I have gone to places where they are more than likely to give me one.
So yes, stalking.
AKA like a film premiere. Like they're there to So I had a bit of a list, and then I went through a bunch of film premieres. So I ticked everyone off that list. The only person that I haven't, which I don't know why I would love like a picture with him, is Tom Cruise. And I don't even like him that much, but I feel like he's such an icon.
Yeah.
And I think he would make for a good picture.
I think we discussed this though in like when we've done Cruise episodes before. Cruise is kind of like a unicorn. Like there's not really many people like him. There won't be many people like him again. So like to get a picture with him, would be quite cool.
Yeah, I think so.
But I feel like, I don't know.
What about you?
He'd probably have you killed if like you asked at an inopportune time, you know.
I reckon Ben's would be Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, I'd love to meet Pierce Brosnan. No, I'd love to meet Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig would be great, but he seems quite...
I'd rather meet Pierce Brosnan than Daniel Craig, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
I could see Brosnan being more into it than Daniel Craig, to be honest.
I met David Tennant. That was my big one because I was such a big Doctor Who fan for years,
so
and he was so nice.
Yeah,
and I got a photo with him, and I haven't got that many. I've got a photo with a guitar player from Snow Patrol.
Iconic.
It's fucking random shit, but like, yeah, I don't have that many because I don't know. There's something about me that like when I see famous people, I just go, "Oh, that's your man," rather than being like thinking, "I'll go." Like a friend, mutual friend of mine and Simon, Sam. I remember walking through Covent Garden with him and another person that we used to work with, and Tim Roth just walked past us, and Sam and I turned to one another, being like, "Oh, it's Tim Roth," and the person who were with was like, "Who's Tim Roth?" And like,
yeah.
How fucking dare you? And I've walked past like Bill Nye and stuff in Victoria, but I never think I'm going to stop him and be like, hello, nice to meet you. Can I have a photograph? I have walked past Cillian Murphy. I was annoyed that I didn't say it's Cillian Murphy, but he was on the phone.
I would be so, terrified.
He's a lot shorter in real life than you think. Yeah. Maybe people do assume that he's short, but he's quite short.
What's the name of that Middle East drama which stars Carrie, who ends up having...
Homeland.
Homeland. I always see in Hampstead Heath the ginger hair.
Oh, Damian Lewis.
I always see him marching along, like having a loud conversation.
That's so funny.
Yeah, he must live around there or something.
Yeah, must be hanging out with Helena Bonham Carter because he's always around there as well.
I find walking up to people really naff. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't do it.
I think
it's
it's-
not
yeah.
nice.
I think about it if someone asked me to do it, like came up and asked me, I'd be a bit like, oh.
You know what?
But they're under pressure because like they can't say no because it'll become like a moment where they were like bad.
I take it back. I think I would probably walk up to people just to tell them how much I love them in something. As opposed to like, I think at this point I have outgrown the need for a selfie or like for an autograph. But me saying, "Oh my God, I loved you in this. Goodbye, have a great day." I think I could do that.
I once got a photo with David Hasselhoff.
Fantastic.
Oh yes.
But I was in his leather jacket was so big that I got in it and he wrapped it around me and I was just like poking out.
I think that's the thing. I think if you're in the correct situation and you're getting a photo with a famous person, you need to make it different for them, right? Like that's the thing that I think. That's the thing that I think is like, I'm not just going to ask you for a boarding photograph and be like, listen, I get on your shoulders, you get on my shoulders. Like Tom Cruise could get on your shoulders and be like, this is going to be a hell of a photo. It's a health and safety nightmare, but fucking hell, it's different.
Yeah.
You know,
dude, that guy has very special insurance, so he can do anything.
Yeah, true. And I'd say, do you know what? He's so like such a fitness freak. He could probably like jump and land on my shoulders in one go.
1,000%.
But imagine if you were the one person that like really hurt his back and it really cut his career short.
Yeah, or just turned out that was Tom Cruise's thing. He's like, I will take a photo with you, but I have to prove to the world how strong I am, and we'll do the photo with you on my shoulders. Like, I think you need to make it like be interesting, have an angle, you know?
Oh, bless.
It's like an interview. You gotta have an angle. You can't just be like, can I take a photograph with you?
Yeah, that's lame. That's really lame.
Well, now it's a bit naff, but yeah.
Yeah.
But people are fucking mad for it.
Philip is just older as well. I don't know. It used to be more of a thing for me back in the day when I was in my 20s, like early 20s. But now I'm just like,
I think I've gotten starstruck by people, but I don't think I've been like, I need to have a photograph with you, you know?
No, I have gone delirious around people. Like when I saw Brad Pitt, I was like, I cannot even.
Brad Pitt's on another level. I mean,
he's like ethereal creature, like just like next level.
You kind of like, when you see him, you kind of question if he exists. We're like, you can't.
Yeah. Him and Margot Robbie are the two people where I'm like, you're just pristine.
You're like surely I can't have seen Brad Pitt buying a loofah in the body shop. Like that, surely... That like I have to have dreamt that, exactly. Especially if you see them doing something normal, you know. I just can't like. Yeah, we've gone on such a tangent. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, by the way, that clip is Brian.
Is it? It's Cranston, is it? Nice. Okay.
That final scene
starts now.
He has such a nice, such a lovely voice. That man.
Lovely, very calming.
Yeah.
Well, we are supposed to do or to have the very first round of Desert Island.
Yeah.
Which is something that we've promised since last year to our listeners, and I feel like it's fine all the time.
Or if we want to make it more of a courtroom drama, a few good films.
A few good films. There you go. Yeah, that's the one. Hashtag a few good films.
Who's Jack Nicholson? Who's Tom Cruise? You're Jack Nicholson, I think, in this situation, Simon. You're defending yourself.
Everyone should say the 3 films that they picked.
I put in Casino Royale. I put in
The Incredibles.
And I put in
What We Do in the
Shadows.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, that's
perfect.
my 3.
I have Parasite, Fight Club, and 2001: Space Odyssey.
And I have Death of Stalin, Mrs. Doubtfire, and Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah. And the aim of this is that we have a kind of a rolling list of films that we think, you know, would be good desert island films or good films to have in the archive with us. And every week or every few episodes, someone will come along and challenge one of us, very much like Tom Cruise and A Few Good Men challenging Jack Nicholson, to remove their film from the archive that we currently have going, from the courtroom.
And I am in the unfortunate position to be first to kick a film out, which I don't want to do because I love all the films. And for me, this was a very hard one.
You sure? I feel like you sent me a text being like, it's an easy one. No, I'm sorry.
Trying to take me out. The reason for that, well, number one, I'm going to go for The Death of Stalin, Simon's film, which I think we teased in a previous episode. And the reason for that is because, not just because I don't love the film, because I do, but because I love the director so much, Iannucci. A guy that I would love to get a picture with, speaking of.
Okay, cool.
And he has like a lovely, I don't know, anyway. But because there is a film of his that I feel like is superior to The Death of Stalin that deserves to be in the Desert Island or like A Few Good Films collection. Because when I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, that is such a rewatchable film. And that's In the Loop. Simon, I know I sent you a clip that I would love for you to play, because before you play it, I just want to say like argument number 1. Death of Stalin is great and it has some great one-liners, right? They're spot on. But in The Loop, every single line is a one-liner, is an iconic one-liner. And case number one, here's 20 seconds of just pure one-liners, one after the other.
Preventable sickness in many of the poorest countries around the world. And of course, the big one is diarrhea, which is a major issue.
Diarrhea. This is the Minister for International Development. You should be talking about food parcels, not fucking arse-spraying mayhem.
And so if we can tackle the easy things like diarrhea, then we can...
Oh, say it again. Yes, very good. What is this, the shitting forecast?
And just keeps on giving. But
Amazing.
yeah, they were just like such a good...
So that's Peter Capaldi being super duper dry.
As Malcolm Tucker.
Yeah.
I love Malcolm.
Well,
He's excellent.
Well, that's the thing. And that is my second argument. With Death of Stalin, incredible cast, amazing performances. We mentioned, what's his name?
Jason
earlier.
Isaacs.
Yeah, incredible. However, with Death of Stalin, I felt like we just had...
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, but I felt like we had a bunch of long cameos, while with In the Loop, we had Malcolm, we had Simon, and I just felt, maybe it was because of the thick of it, maybe I'm a bit biased, but I just felt like I had more of a connection with them because they had more screen time. Like I could see their character a bit more, and I don't know, I could see like where they were coming from as well. And the third argument that I put down, which, to be fair, that's very subjective, but that's down to me. I am not a huge fan of the historical context of like USS.
The USS Enterprise.
Yeah.
I'm not either.
It's the USS Soviet
That's
Union.
the acronym. That's the acronym. Because, oh my God, you guys are taking the piss. For me, that's more going back to the desert island situation where I'm like, maybe you want something a bit more universal, which is US politics, bureaucracy, same old bullshit. It's more accessible. Well, Death of Stalin, I can see people being like, oh, I don't want to just, go back to that time again. It's just very niche.
What? So you're saying you're stuck on a desert island. You don't want to go and have a fun, farcical time in history. You want to talk about US politics on the desert island that you probably tried to get away from in the first place by going to the desert island.
No, I want to double down on the absurdities of bureaucracy of the US politics and how bizarre the whole thing, which, by the way, US politics and UK politics is the same thing.
Yeah, well, at the moment they are.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But to be fair, that's more of a me subjective thing because I'm just not into that kind of era, and I could see myself being very bored going back to that. Even like the costume design, I can see myself being like, this is not for me. But I'm not saying it's a superior like topic. It's just not my thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So that's why I'm going for the Death of Stalin, simply because I feel like it's In the Loop is the superior Ian Nucci film, not because it's Death of Stalin is an amazing film.
So how would you rebuttal that then, Simon?
Well, one of my measures for the sort of the top Trump measures was originality. I felt like it was more of in the thick of it. It didn't feel like this brand new defining genre that in the thick of it felt like when you first saw it. When I first saw In the Thick of It, it was a bit like when I first saw The Office, Ricky Gervais's The Office. And I remember me and my dad were like, I think I was doing my A-levels or something at the time, and I was still living at home, and like my dad put it on. And we were just like, what? Is this like a documentary or whatever? And we couldn't quite figure it out for the first episode. And In the Thick of It still captured some of that with the shaky camera and the performances. Whereas when I saw Veep, I was just like, I really enjoyed it, but it didn't feel as fresh and as exciting.
But in the Loop, you have best of both worlds because you have the thick of it.
Sorry, why am I saying Veep?
I'm
sorry.
not sure.
Well, because Veep obviously spawns from In the Loop.
Yeah, sorry, In the Loop. Sorry.
Yeah.
In the Loop is like the connector between the thick and Veep.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to that, I think it's more about, you're right, because you have the handheld camera, which is so raw in a way, like, and we love that. Like, we've talked about this 1,000 times. And maybe the Death of Stalin felt a bit more, not to its detriment, but more well produced, standardly produced.
Yeah.
Which
what I liked about it was that you don't get that. Well, it's funny because we're going to be talking about Poor Things in a minute, but you don't get farce very much.
Yeah.
In recent times, and I thought The Death of Stalin did farce really, really well in that Monty Python style, and also Jason Isaacs.
Right, what's a war hero got to do? Get some lubrication around here.
What do you think, Ben?
Just lovely.
Yeah, I mean, I have kind of probably more of an affection for In the Loop, I think, because especially that Malcolm Tucker character is such an iconic character to have just gotten, like, I still hate the fact that there's not more of In the Thick of It, you know? And so to get more of, or sorry, not In the Thick of It, The Thick of It, and then more of it in the Loop.
Amanda Iannucci said, like, it's now, the government's become it. So he now can't even
exactly.
make it, because it's already happening for real.
Well, there's all,
on the news.
It's funny because you watch The Thick of It and you see people who are like Dominic Cummings and stuff like that predicted like 10 years ago from his stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's a hard one because actually for me, there is very little between them.
Yeah.
And the only thing that probably differentiates it for me is Malcolm Tucker is just one of the funniest characters, and the extended universe of that film as well, with stuff like Veep, because obviously, you know, you don't have one without the other.
And the style of shooting, because I guess some people may find the handheld camera annoying.
It's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not for everyone.
And I wonder is, as you say, is Death of Stalin a bit like too polished? Like, because of what I associate Iannucci with and what him being really good at is that kind of mockumentary style, and is maybe Death of Stalin a little bit too polished from what, and this is wrong of me, because I'm like, this is what I expect from him and what I expect to be his style, and that's wrong of me to assume, obviously, but that's just kind of what I come away from it thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that's as I say, that's very unfair of me. I think it's really weird, like, wrong to go into films with expectations of, well, this is what this director and this creator has done in the past, and I hope it will be the same.
We're also here, and obviously, like, I'm not from here, but in a weird way, I've been hearing about the legacy of The Thick of It all the time for a very long time, and because we're gonna put this to a vote, and we have a global audience, we may get like different, like unexpected results, because maybe that way of, like, we're kind of biased. Like, I think all three of us are a bit biased with this director. So it'll be interesting to see what people think.
And I think you'll agree with me, Simon and Sophie, on this, is that if you have seen these films, but you haven't seen stuff like In the Thick of It or Veep, go and watch them. Because actually, I would say The Thick of It is Iannucci's, apart from maybe the Armando Iannucci show, which is kind of his original sketch comedy stuff, which some of that is incredible. Like, there's so much of, like, I think Iannucci, a lot of British comedy and a lot of funny stuff in British comedy you can probably trace back to him. A lot of sketches and stuff like that he did. Like, you know, I think the one that you and I talk about quite a lot is, there's a whole IT Crowd episode about, you know, them going to the football and trying to pretend to be men and being, that all comes from an Armando Iannucci sketch where he's like freaking out about the fact that he's walking through the park and men kick a football towards him, and it's genius. Like, it's absolutely genius.
Cool. We will put this to a vote and we'll report back. But I think for not the next episode, but for the episode after, when we do our next final scene, it's only fair for Simon to pick the next.
So no matter what happens, Simon, even if Death of Stalin even if it stays in, you can now choose one of mine or Sophie's to viciously kick out.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's this?
It's a movie.
No!
Oh, I liked it.
No!
Can I say something?
No!
I don't get it.
What don't you get about it?
Okay, speaking of satire.
And farce, as you said.
And farce, that's a really good word, Simon.
Lots of arse and farce.
I mean, where to start? It's a film that sort of came out of nowhere. I think we've been hearing about it for a while, but it's been a bit of a slow burn in terms of the attention it has gotten recently. But it's everywhere: Golden Globes, Oscars, Critics' Choice Awards.
Did it win a
It
Cannes
premiered
and stuff?
and Venice Film Festival did its premiere,
okay.
and that's when people were like, "Holy shit, what the fuck is this?" And
it's a correct reaction to the film.
I mean, we can talk about it. I came out of the theater thinking, I want to watch this right away again. And it's not often that I have this sort of reaction. I had such a good time. But it's pretty much everywhere. I mean, Emma Stone it's an interesting one with Emma Stone because everyone has been talking about her performance because it's so good. And also you have Lily Gladstone, you know, up for an Oscar as well. So that's going to be an interesting one for the night. So
I think Lily Gladstone wins it, but
I think so.
It's just me.
I think so because they're just so much.
There's a bit Emma Stone's performance is very good and very physical, but there's a bit more like emotional heft to Lily Gladstone, and I mean the Oscars love a bit of emotional heft.
Yeah, I think so.
It's very rare that with the Oscars, like where they'll go for the more kind of comedic physical performance. You kind of have to think back to like The Artist and stuff like that, where they tend to skew that way.
And it's a deeply
race.
American film, and the Oscars ultimately the majority of the critics are Americans. So I have a feeling that they would opt for which I'm happy for. So does any of you want to take a stab at the summary of the film? Like, what is Poor Things about?
It's a Victoriana Art Nouveau Chitty Chitty Bang Bang meets Rocky Horror Show meets Frankenstein meets Downton Abbey on acid. And it's a story of like female emancipation. It's a story of...
It is about freedom, you're right though.
Freedom, I think. It's also very funny. It's very rude.
It's bizarre.
It's very surreal.
Yeah, surreal is a good word.
It's surreal, but at the same time it makes sense. I think there's nothing. I felt like Lanthimos has more surreal films. Like The Lobster to me is much more surreal in its essence.
It's a study of the male condition and the female condition in many ways, and it's quite uncomfortable. It's like a mirror being held up to it, and it's been done in a very surreal way. But a lot of what it's saying is quite profound, I think. Which is why it really connected with me, and why I think so much of it is very, very funny, because often we laugh at what's truth.
So Poor Things centers on Bella Baxter, played by Emma Stone, a woman brought back to life after a brilliant but unhinged scientist, Godwin Willem Dafoe, performs experimental surgery on her, and more specifically, transplanting the brain of her unborn fetus into her body. So Bella embarks on a journey of self-discovery, exploring love, lust, and philosophy. After leaving her abusive husband and surviving a disastrous honeymoon cruise, Bella returns home to care for her dad with air quotes. She performs brain surgery on her lecherous suitor, Alfie, replacing his brain with that of a goat. In the end, Bella finds fulfillment living at Godwin's estate with her dear friend Toinette, her friends, and love interest Max, starting to become a doctor herself.
But Ben, what's it really about?
It's about discovery of the self and working out who you are and working out where you fit in the world. And like, it's a story of female empowerment, the patriarchy. We've seen a lot of films about patriarchy and female empowerment recently, and it does it it's doing it like, if you say that and you think, oh, it's just another Barbie film, it's very much not. It's a completely different way of looking at it. It does it in kind of a farcical way and a incredibly surreal, Wes Anderson almost-esque kind of crossed with a million different things of like horror and...
And how many stars would you give it, Sophie?
5.
Ben?
4.
I'm a 5.
And I feel bad for saying that.
No, that's okay.
No, you got to be honest.
Yeah,
4.
Should we talk reactions first? Because I don't know, because of the film, I don't know if you guys were able to bring clips from it. Probably not.
I've got one clip.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah.
Or you can talk through the scene that stood out to you and how it ladders up to the ending. But Ben,
the film itself for me didn't pick up and get going basically until Bella leaves and goes to Lisbon, and it almost ends at her wedding to Max towards the end, and then there's kind of an extra 15 minutes of kind of throwaway, her former husband is here, blah, blah, blah. There's like 1 or 2 scenes. Okay, he's a dick. Now his brain has been switched with like a goat. It kind of like, I almost felt like in what is already kind of a long film, I probably wanted more. Like I wanted more of that you kind of want to hate him more, but like there could have been more there, I think. And it had been, I thought it had been really nicely paced up until that point, and then it goes really quickly because it's like, oh shit, we're fucking hell, guys, we're 2 hours and 15 minutes in here, this needs to end. And then we get really quickly to kind of that final scene in the garden. I wouldn't say it soured it for me, because I still think it's a fantastic film, but it just kind of felt quite rushed to me at the end. I kind of was left wanting a bit more from that.
I get that. I think probably where the filmmaker was coming from is, one, you don't want to give the abuser any more screen time, like just take him out probably. And secondarily, I wonder whether he would have actually did your head in if he had any more screen time, because he was so annoying and just a horrible, despicable human.
The problem is that there's one kind of comment where Bella talks about, because there's the whole thing about of like, well, Jesus, why, like, if you're my husband and I live in this huge, amazing house, why would I throw myself off a bridge? There's kind of one throwaway comment about that, So
you would have sort in the middle, perhaps.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of scenes in between that you could probably take maybe 5 minutes out of it to just add a little bit more, towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some like of the sex montages that you're like, this is still going on.
That's my only criticism of the film. I felt like there was way too much sex,
So that's kind of what I mean. Is like to the point where you're like, Jesus, you could have had like 5 minutes less of that. Like, especially obviously the scenes in Paris where she starts working in the brothel and goes on this kind of journey of discovery.
Mm-hmm.
That goes on. That montage, especially the scene, Jesus, where the guy's has brought his 2 children.
That was the scene I found the most uncomfortable of the whole film.
So uncomfortable to watch. And there was something, wasn't there, about like the...
So there's a scene, as you want to describe it, there's a scene where she's working in a brothel in Paris, and one of the clients is like this old French guy that brings his 2 children his 2 sons to educate them. And they're about 12 or something?
Oh,
or younger.
10 and 12 maybe?
And they watch him have sex with her.
I think there was some controversy about that, wasn't there?
I'm not surprised. It was really
with it being
weird.
shown in the UK, I think there was something that like the British board of BBFC or whatever they are.
It was.
We're kind of like, you need to re-edit this scene because we will not show this in British cinemas if you cannot have.
I was quite shocked by that
like,
scene,
yeah.
and I wondered if Yorgos is just being provocative on purpose with that. Like, what's the deal?
That's what it felt like.
But I could see that being a thing. Like, I'm pretty sure, maybe not to that extent, but you've definitely heard stories of parents taking their sons to have sex with a prostitute.
Yes, that's like I think I heard Russell Brand say he lost his virginity to a, which probably speaks volumes for him, to a
back
prostitute.
Then it was maybe, I don't know. But I have a
Traumatizing
feeling,
experience for those 2 boys.
Exactly. I have a feeling there's a grain of truth in that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, but in a film that is also kind of at its core doing its best to be provocative. Does that scene almost go a little bit too far into the it's all been kind of bizarre and surreal up until that point. And of course this is like so surreal and it's so insane. But also then, as you say, it's not like there is an element of realism to that you're kind of like, oh,
maybe the French.
Yeah. Sorry to all of our French listeners.
But no, I feel you. But it's interesting.
I thought you were lining up to play a clip there. I was like, oh Jesus. The bit where she's like, a finger up the arse can help.
Oh yeah. So at least that diffused the awkwardness in that scene.
It needed to be, because the whole, I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, that during the scene they're having sex as the dad is like turning to his sons
and one of the sons has a notebook and he's writing stuff down.
He's writing stuff. Oh God.
Yeah.
And then she pops a finger up the arse to speed things along.
Yeah. Oh jeez. Yeah, you could have cut some time out of it, I think.
Yeah,
because later at the very end of the film, she's walking along like a canal with the nice guy.
Yeah.
So she's dispatched the evil husband, and even the nice guy was fucking weird.
Max.
Yeah.
He asked her to marry her when she was basically still a child, and. Anyway, she's
sorry, not only asked to marry her, but then also agreed to this weird contract where they would both be confined to the house.
So no matter what's happening, all the men are still like basically controlling her with contracts and whatever. But they're walking along this canal, and she's telling the evil husband about her whoring in Paris. Sorry, not the evil husband. She's the love interest about her whoring in Paris, as she puts it.
Yeah.
And this is the clip of them discussing it, which I found very, very funny.
Wedderburn became much weepy and sweary when he discovered my whoring.
I find myself merely jealous of the men's time with you, rather than any moral aspersion against you. It is your body, Bella Baxter, yours to give freely.
I generally charged 30 francs.
Well, that seems low.
So he's still got a view on the value.
Yeah.
But I found that, there's lots of lines like that, I think, that like kind of broke the awkwardness or the uncomfortableness that was being presented, which I thought worked really well throughout. There's like that, generally that kind of rhythm was present in the film.
Yeah, I think you have to do it like that, because that's life in a way. It's not always like, I don't know, it can be so odd and so awkward and so horror-y.
You'll cry,
Yeah, exactly.
One of my other favourite scenes was when they were on the boat, in the boat section, and she starts to read lots of philosophy and poetry. And
we're gonna get to that with the final scene as well, because I think it's very interesting because the final scene, I'm sure you're gonna have thoughts on, but the entire film leads up to the final scene, because it's going back to what Ben said. It's all about like self-discovery and advancing and growing. And there is that line, like philosophy debate that she has with Harry on the boat, and she talks about, like, I'm paraphrasing, but unless you suffer, like, you don't grow, you don't advance. So let's go through the final scene. So yeah, do you want to?
I was just going to say, in that scene, Duncan starts to get turned off her.
Yep.
When she starts to become cleverer and more self-aware and stuff.
Yeah.
And for him, that's not attractive anymore. He liked her when she was vulnerable and naive and basically a child. Well, he doesn't like it when she's got having her own ideas.
Well, exactly. He gets turned off her even before that, when she starts talking back.
Yes. Yeah.
When they're in Lisbon at dinner and stuff like that, or when when she starts to embarrass him in front of his so-called friends. Wasn't he like, he tells you can say three things.
Yeah.
Marvelous, delightful, and how do they get the pastry so crispy?
Yeah.
And then she's talking about like the death of her father. And he's like, marvelous, delightful. How do they get the pastry so crispy? And the look between the two of them, because she knows exactly. It's brilliant because she knows exactly what she's doing.
Yeah.
So in the film's final moments, we see the household in the wake of Godwin's death. Felicity, that's the new Bella, and the housemaid, Mrs. Prim,
who she's made friends with
a football.
In the interim somehow.
Felicity shows signs of progress by actually being able to catch. Max brings Bella into a netted drink. We hear she's about to take the medical exam. The general is now a goat. Sorry music plays as everyone enjoys the moment. The last shot is of a content Bella reading a book on medicine. A wonderfully utopian
I like
ending.
the bit when she suggests gin for the ladies.
Yeah.
And then and they're all having a lovely time and sort of they're in control of the scenario.
Water for the general.
Yeah, exactly.
So to start off on her decision to become a doctor, why become a doctor? Why pursue medicine? Why do you think she went down that route?
Because we all become our parents.
Nice one.
Yeah. And it's also, I guess, becoming a surgeon for her that like continues that fascination, right? Like there's one of the bits in Paris where she just goes to the autopsy and she's like, well, this is what I do on my time off because I just like to see. And actually, like, you know, medicine is one of those professions where you can continuously discover and explore and experiment like Godwin did as well.
Yeah, you never know the whole truth. Yeah.
And I mean, how else is she going to transplant brains into weird animals and different creatures?
And then I also think her time in the brothel was quite eye-opening for her as well, from that empathy standpoint, because I think that's what she was lacking up until that point. She was a bit entitled, you know, because she was able to talk back and things like that. But I think up until then, she didn't know how to relate to people. And I think there's a lot of suffering there, and why she connected with, you know, other women. And I think to become a doctor, you have to have a lot of empathy and like want to heal.
Someone who heals people,
Yeah. So
I mean, that's not to bring this back to Doctor Who, but like there's you know, in Doctor Who, there's the line of who chooses a name like the Doctor, the person who makes people better.
Oh,
and that's kind of, you even see that with like when she gives the money away kind of naively to those sailors to give to the poor people in where are they, in Alexandria?
Yeah.
You know, Bella has a really idealistic way of seeing the world up until that point. But actually, by becoming a doctor, she can do better. It's not just about giving people money anymore. She can use her intelligence and her skill to actually, you know, heal people. And
is she a healer, or is she just more into tinkering and experimenting and learning rather than
I think it's
helping?
a bit of both.
Yeah, but I think she wants to do it right if she's actually reading up on taking an exam and not just wing it.
Do you know what? I think in the most artsy farty way, and I hate even saying this, I think if the film had ended in black and white, you'd say she was a tinkerer. I think the fact that Bella sees the world in such colour now, it's not as black and white anymore of just like, oh, I'm interested in what this thing does. She's much more interested in why than, you know, she's grown up, she learns what things do, but she's much more interested in why things are the way they are and what they do. and how to make the world better. She has that conversation with, is it Harry? Harry, is that the guy's name? Who's like the kind of the nihilist. Of he has this kind of bleak view of humanity, and she talks about, you know, wanting to help people, and he's like, well, of course you'd want to do that. Of course you see the good in everyone. And, you know, again, it's almost like that childlike naivety as well of thinking you can do all of these things, and now she's taking that and going, I'm going to take this and actually follow on from what God did.
It's a fairy tale ending, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, in a largely fairy tale story.
Well, I think that's what was gonna be my question, because probably the biggest thing that stood out to me in the final scene is how peaceful and tranquilo. Like it's so chill. Everyone's having a good time, and that is in vast contrast with what we just saw 2 hours prior to that. Like just a lot of horror, sadness, like all of the uncomfortable things we talked about.
Even from the sound design and the music, it's a very tranquil kind of ending. And if you compare that with the Alexandria scene, like I almost wanted to walk out of the cinema at that point, because it was so, like the music was so loud and aggressive and high pitched and almost like off key. Yeah, there's that weird
very
horror
dissonant
thing where everything I mean, it's done an incredible job, obviously, to make me feel this way. It feels so uncomfortable. You're sitting there, like, it's not even really what you're seeing, because obviously in the scene you're seeing, you know, she's incredibly upset, and there's all these people down in this pit, and there's like dead children and all that kind of thing. But like the sound of it was so like uneasing, whereas at the end it's this quite like, it's like nice, long drawn notes.
The soundtrack trod this really clever line between being very dissonant, uneasy, and then very comical. And it was like there was points where it was making me laugh because there was lots of these twanging instruments that were like kind of making comedy noises that were also quite musical.
But then at the end, it's not though. At the end, it's really trying to like,
it resolves,
ease you, and almost be like, it's okay, it's done, it's over, relax.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm not sure of, because it's Lanthimos. Like generally, I mean, you've seen a few films of him. Like he's such a pessimist, and with this one, I'm like, oh, he's gone. Like that's his most hopeful and optimistic ending. Yeah, like it's almost like he's trying to tell you, yeah, this is a good moment and enjoy it while it lasts. Because it's not like the patriarchy has gone, like has disappeared. Like it's out there.
She's conquered it for herself.
Oh, maybe
she? In her little
yeah,
world.
Yeah,
in her bubble.
I think there's so many kind of is unhopeful word moments in the film, but the fact that we get to it and she has conquered it, and like, because there's a point going back to the scenes with the general, there's a point up until that where you're thinking this film could end with her getting shot in the face, right? Like this film could fully end that she gets shot right now, and
that would be a Lanthimos.
That could be the end of it. And that, so watching it, we watched The Favourite maybe the week before, and having watched that film and you see how it ends for all of them, I was like, Emma Stone is getting blown away any second, because that is how he ends his films. And actually it was such a relief that didn't happen. You know, I'm actually happy that he's strayed from his kind of his norms in that way and done something a little bit different. It's
almost like he evolved himself, because think of the final scene of Killing of the Sacred Deer, of Lobster even, you know, they just Dogtooth is horrible. Like in the end, it just tells
Killing
you.
of the Sacred Deer especially like kind of stands out as like almost polar opposites, considering the ending of Poor Things.
Yeah, it's like telling you there is no way out of rigid structures, and you are confined to this way of thinking, feeling. If you try to rebel, here's the consequence for you. You're gonna, you know, burn to death or something like that.
Yeah, whereas Bella actually rebels against the system and succeeds in it, which is quite nice.
Quite nice. Enjoyed that. Yes, so it has on Lanthimos overall. I think I have one last question for the ending, because it's a bit of a funny one. Obviously, we see Bella with her chosen family now, and
I mean, Bella's the patriarch, or she's the matriarch.
She's the OG. Yeah.
She runs that house.
We are assuming that she didn't marry Max, and she's probably like polyamorous. Like, what do we think the social, the situation is there from that kind of relational?
I think she probably did marry Max.
Really?
Yeah.
I
think
got
so.
I got the
He's a
sense
very
he
weak
didn't.
character considering her outlook on
Yeah.
life. He's a very
I
sort
think
of
maybe she's probably married
genteel
him.
man.
She's married him, but I think she will outgrow him eventually.
Oh, I got the sense she's
What if she-
sleeping with Toinette on the side, and he's just there for the, for the company and for the.
She's sleeping with who?
Toinette, like her French lady.
Oh, from the brothel.
Yeah.
She probably is. Yeah, like I don't agree with that whatsoever.
Right.
I'd say she's married to Max, but she's doing what she has done throughout the film, where she's not conforming to just, well, yeah, of course I'll be married to you, and like you and I will have the emotional, meaningful connection, but like physically, I also want to experience other things. I'm not going to be.
But she had no
bound
genuine,
by that.
like, there was no building of the relationship between
Yeah,
the
I
two.
don't see it with them. I
They
see
were
them
just
as good friends.
At the end, they were just shoved together. Like, there was no trajectory of their relationship.
I could see her having a phase with him, but
A phase.
Well, she was just honouring the contract her dad wrote for the two of them. That's all that was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't see her as someone who would want to get married at this point.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
I mean, even though she was already down the aisle with him at the point that the general comes in. I mean, she's marrying him until he's like,
but she wasn't
"Haven't
very
you done
excited.
aren't you doing the I object part yet?
She wasn't very excited, was she? She was just like, yeah, I guess I have to do this because my dad told me so, and it's the right thing to do because I'm of age.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah. Any closing remarks on the final scene or the film in general?
I thought it was excellent. 5 stars. Yeah, I thought it was making some really profound points.
Yeah.
Using a very surreal mechanic to do it, which I thought made it really creative and ambitious.
I'm with you.
The settings, the sound design, everything was completely mad. But they were just saying truth all the way through. And it was, it's like when I hear people articulate stuff in a way that I could only dream of doing myself. And there was lots of lines in that film that I thought, yes, I agree with that, and I want to write that down because I'd like to say that myself in the right situation.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said, and I wonder maybe did I just see and having watched his other films beforehand, go into it in maybe a different kind of headspace of kind of what my expectations with the film were going to be. And again, I said this earlier in the episode about talking about Iannucci, that expectation is wrong actually to go into that. And I came out of it thinking, not necessarily thinking I'm going to rush to watch it again, but coming out of it thinking I probably need to watch it again to appreciate it fully, because it's like an overload.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like especially once it kicks into color, once the film is in color, it is like a sensory overload, and it is like it hits you really quickly. And so I completely agree with everything you said about it, but I wonder if I didn't enjoy it as much because I went in with some expectations previously, and I shouldn't have done that. And so I definitely want to watch it again. I think it ends in the perfect way. I think it ends exactly as the film should. I think I'd probably have been disappointed if he had ended it like he has his other films, and had been more pessimistic, because the whole film is about her pushing back. And, it's nice. I feel like we've had this conversation on the podcast before with certain films, but it's nice that it doesn't go and do the fucking depressing realist ending of like, guess what?
She would have been the goat.
Yeah. The fucking patriarchy wins and she gets shot in the face. Yeah. Like, I'm really glad that didn't happen, because that's not the movie the ending or that's not the ending the film deserved, and it's not the ending Bella as a character and everything she's been through that film deserves. And so I definitely want to see it again. Maybe just not in a cinema where it's as loud and it's as
I took earplugs because I just knew it was going to be like that. It was so loud, even with my attenuators in.
Yeah,
why is it that loud? It's stupid.
I know,
because the sound was brilliant. It was just too loud.
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting. I didn't have that experience with LFF, but maybe it was just a different way of screening it. I mean, I agree with you, Ben. I think it's just sensory overload, and it's what I said earlier, like it's my everything everywhere all at once,
but
which means it needs another rewatch to fully absorb.
I think it's his best film.
100%.
I definitely think it's his best film.
It's his best film.
Don't get me wrong, like I like The Favourite, and I really liked The Lobster when I saw it the first time, because it's such a different film, and all of his films are very different. But it's definitely his. Even if I didn't like it as much as I feel like I should have, it's definitely it's like his best work, and the performances in it are fantastic. Like you can't like. I think Emma Stone is amazing in it. I don't know if she'll win the Oscar, but I think she's fantastic in it. I think Mark Ruffalo's fantastic. Like he's brilliant in it. Like it's probably he's not. I don't think he'll win the Oscar for it. I think Robert Downey Jr. will probably win it. We'll discuss this in a future episode when we do our Oscar episode. But he's brilliant in it. Willem Dafoe's accent constantly going from is he Eastern European, is he Scottish, is he English, where is he supposed to be from?
Doesn't matter.
Was a bit
but it kind of matched the whole
Yeah.
like, where is this? What era is this exactly? It's fine.
Yeah.
I just remember leaving the cinema feeling very creatively topped up with inspiration. Like I felt like pleased that someone is able to go out on a limb and be ambitious like that and take risks and do something completely mad. And I think Yorgos is like willing to make a fool of himself in a way,
Oh, 100%.
which is the
For sure.
ultimate thing that I aspire. I want to, you know, if you're willing to like put yourself out there and completely fail, then you can make really interesting
And
stuff.
it took
like
him
that.
6 years to make the film because he was trying to sell it to
Not
company.
surprised,
Yeah,
yeah.
no one was willing to.
I'll be very interested to see where he goes next, and if he continues this on because
He has another film with Stone next year called End.
okay.
Capital
Yeah.
End. We'll see him.
I'll be interested to see where it goes because obviously this feels like in a weird way like his next evolution of what he is as a filmmaker, and I think his next set of films will be more like Poor Things, more so than they are The Lobster, The Favourite, that kind of thing. I feel like he's made, or at least I hope he has gone into this and he doesn't revert back because as you say, Simon, like it's a big risk of a film.
Yeah.
And actually he has some kind of mad ideas that hopefully he keeps taking shots on things like that rather than you know, or hopefully studios let him do that.
And I hope more actors get on board with him because, I mean, I mentioned this about Ruffalo in the last episode where I was saying, I haven't seen him in anything exciting in a long time. And that's the first time where I'm like, I saw him doing something different. So I hope more actors like him.
I feel like in the same way that Emma Stone's done a few films with him, he'll be like Scorsese where Nolan where he will have his like, he'll have like a troupe.
Yeah.
Like there'll be a couple of actors that you'll probably start seeing recurring in his films. Like I'd love to see him and Olivia Colman work again because her and The Favourite is amazing.
Yeah,
and
you've
again,
never seen her like that.
Yeah, she's absolutely incredible. Like and deservedly won all the awards for it. And is amazing. And like Willem Dafoe, I'd like to see him do more with him as well. Mark Ruffalo again, brilliant in it. I think he'll get really interesting stuff out of him in the future. And obviously, I mean, he seems to love Emma Stone.
Yeah, and she loves him. So yeah, it's
yeah, exactly. So
it's
like a match made in heaven.
Oh, cute.
So I'm interested to see where it goes next.
Cool. Okay, I think we solved the ending again.
I think we did.
Thank you for joining me. If you are still with us, then please go and rate the podcast. Go share the episode with your friends. I'm sure people will want to get a breakdown of the ending. And we'll be back in 2 weeks with our general movie tale. And Simon has been telling us about the laundry list of things that he wants to recommend to you. So
yes.
Yeah.
Or not.
What?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting about what we've been watching soon because I've been watching some good shit.
Yeah.
And I'm hopefully planning on seeing some more good shit.
Yeah, I've got
me
three endings for you that I can talk about. I've got an ending that was very rushed, an ending that was pure despair,
I love that.
and an ending that would have worked better on stage.
Ooh,
That
I
is
can't
so
wait to hear
good. I
about that.
can't wait. I
Yeah.
have to think as well.
I'm going to try and guess what these films are. I hope I've seen. I wonder if I've seen them. Any more clues?
Okay, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Did you like it? Did you like that?
Did I like it? I loved it.
I had no idea you could milk a cat.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.